Hello everyone, my name is Tom from Dangote. We are the distributor of JetBrains products in Southeast Asia region. As a developer, we are always finding good tools for our development works. That's why we welcome you all to join tonight's webinar to learn some more professional Git tips for JetBrains IDE. Before we start the main topics, let me show you the agenda tonight. There will be a pre-recorded demo samples to show the pro Git tips. Live Q&A is available during the session as well. And after the video, we will have quiz for you. Just like I mentioned, live Q&A is available, so you may always use YouTube live chat to ask your questions. We will do our best to answer your questions in time. We are providing some prize for the quiz. Just be quick and give us the correct answer to win the prize. And 1 year JetBrains IDE subscription license will be yours. We will do a recording for tonight's webinar so that you can review the video after on JetBrains YouTube channel. And you will also have the URL of the video in our follow-up email. So let us welcome tonight's speaker, Paul Everitt. Hi, Paul. So happy to have you with us together tonight. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun. I'm Paul Everitt, JetBrains developer advocate. I work on Python stuff and web stuff, so I get to do the fun stuff at JetBrains. I don't have to do all that complicated Java stuff. And so I did a series of videos on VCS, which we're going to look at today. We're going to talk with you in chat a little bit and have some fun.
Thank you, Paul. So let us start our topic.
Undo a commit without misery. You botched your last commit. You want to fix it, but you haven't memorized the Git voodoo chant. Good news, if you haven't pushed yet, the IDE can make this really easy. Let's take a look. First, go to the Git tool window and make sure you're on the log tab. Here's the list of commits on the current branch. The most recent one is at the top. Right-click that commit and in the pop-up window, choose Undo Commit. That commit has some changes. We don't want to discard them. Let's keep them in the default change list. And now the commit tool window tells me that I have unstaged changes. And now that commit never happened. Let's look a little deeper. You're editing, say, a markdown file. Let's leave the commit tool window and the Git tool window open to see the updates as we go. You change some text and go to do a commit, put in a message, and for the 1000th consecutive time, you spot a typo just as the on key up event fires when clicking commit. Alas, the commit tool window shows that there are no staged changes. And in your Git log, there it is, the mistaken commit. That means it's too late, right? Nope, if you haven't pushed yet to a protected branch, you can clean things up locally, and the IDE puts a convenient UI atop the underlying Git command. In the Git tool window, find the most recent commit. It's the one at the top. When we select it, we see that we get more detail about the commit. We can actually double-click the file to see what the change was. When you right-click on a commit, you get some actions that you can take on it. Some of them might be grayed out. For example, if I go to an older commit that's already been pushed, right-click, I can't do an undo commit because it's grayed out. Back to the first commit, right-click on it, choose Undo Commit. Now, the commit had some changes in it, and these changes need to go somewhere. The IDE's Change Lists feature provides just such a place. We'll stick with the default change list. This results in our commit tool window showing the unstaged commits after we click OK. A look in the Git log also shows a change. That commit is gone. We're back to where we were before the commit. What would this have been like from the command line? Let's take a look at the Git Tools console tab. This lets us see behind the scenes. There it is, the command that we would have had to type from the command line. And that's it for undoing your last commit. Fix a commit message, easy peasy. That last commit message had a typo. You haven't pushed yet. Just right-click on the commit, choose Edit Commit Message, and fix the mistake. Now your commit history passes the spell checker. That's how to do it. Let's take a deeper look. This is my development life. I finally wrap up a big pile of work, go to do a commit, and in the rush of victory, make a spelling error, which I spot just as I finish clicking commit. Alas, it's there in the history. We haven't pushed, so there's hope. I know, just learn Git from the command line. That works for you, but I don't wanna. The good news, our IDEs are really good at this kind of janitorial work. Of course, the best solution is to fix the problem before committing. Our IDEs have a plugin called Grazie, which does, well, let's just call it super cool spelling and grammar checking. It probably warned you about the typo. It will probably even fix the typo for you. Back to our messed up commit message. I could, of course, go to the terminal and type some blah blah arcane blah blah, at least to me, commit message, and of course, hope I don't corrupt my repo. This has some downsides. Go to the command line, type something a little obscure, possibly get something wrong, and get no help from the spell checker. Fortunately, this is the kind of thing we are great at. Right-click on the commit, and you'll get a list of actions to take on that commit. There are lots of things we can do to help, as this list shows. And beside Edit Commit Message, you can see F2. This shows how we could have skipped the context menu by selecting the commit and pressing F2. We'll select that option and be prompted with a dialog to edit the commit. The existing commit message is there. We can see there's a warning about the typo. We mouse over for more detail. This is the Grazie plugin helping us again. We can type to fix it or use Alt-Enter to get a correction. Once fixed, click OK to finish the operation. You now see the commit history with the fixed commit message. And that's how easy it is to edit a messed up commit message. Use local history when Git can't save you. You're in your repo, you add a file. Later, you make some edits, but then you change your mind. You want to revert, but you never committed. Use the IDE's local history on a file when you aren't under version control at all, or you're in between commits. Browse each IDE change, see diffs, recover from mistakes. Delete a file by accident? Go to the folder's local history and recover that too. That's the basics. Let's take a deeper look. This is the "oh my goodness, you saved my sanity" tip. Sometimes you are in a project that isn't yet under version control, or you've done a lot of work since your last commit. For example, this file is under version control, but as you can see, I've been very busy. I pause for a bit, have some inspiration, and hack away. I delete this paragraph, then ultimately finish the text. But now I want that paragraph back. Git can't help because I didn't commit before hacking away. I could try undo, 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 copy, redo, 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 paste. But that's barbaric. There has to be a better way. And this is going to be one of those things people love about our IDEs. Local history to the rescue. Our IDEs have a built-in facility that tracks revisions for all IDE-initiated changes, whether you're using a VCS or not. Right-click on a file and choose Local History, then Show History. On the left, you get a list of changes detected by the IDE. When you select one, you get a diff, comparing it to the current file contents on the right. As you go through the changes, you see each diff. Like our normal diff viewer, you can apply changes to recover portions. Perhaps you want the entirety of the file at that point in the history. Right-click on that revision and choose Revert. If a certain revision is known to be in a certain state, right-click and apply a friendly label. Next time you go to Local History, you'll see that label displayed. That covers changes to a file, but what if you deleted the file and it wasn't under VCS? Go to that file's folder and choose Local History. The deletion event is there, and you can restore the file. As wrap up, let's see the sequence without the mouse. I'll invoke Search Everywhere and search for the Show Local History action. In the Local History window, I tab into the Old Changes panel. Cursor down to the Edit, tab to go into the Changes, and on Mac, Control-Command right arrow to accept changes. When disaster strikes and VCS can't help you, use the IDE's Local History facility to recover individual changes or even deleted files. Did I really commit without that one change? Again, you're finishing some work? Phew! It's time to commit with a good commit message. But as soon as you commit, you realize you left something out. Good news, the IDE makes amend commit really easy. Make your change. If you haven't pushed, go back to the commit and check amend. When you commit, your change is now included. That's a quick glance. Let's take a deeper look. Here's the problem, and this happens to me a lot. You do a bunch of work, such as write the markdown for this tip and update some thumbnails. You can see the changes. At this point, you're really excited or really exhausted. You want to declare victory with a commit. It is at this exact point that you remember one of those cleanup tasks. Maybe it's update the docs. In this case, you forgot to update the date. Are you really going to do another commit or undo the last commit? There's got to be a better way, and yep, there's a better way. Git lets you amend a commit. Yeah, you out there about to tell us it's easy from the command line. We hear you. But some of us civilians feel otherwise. The Git tool window tells you about your last commit and what changed. You want to make a change, get it into that commit as if the change was there in the first place. What are your options? In a previous video, we showed you undo commit. This would put everything back, you make your change, then another commit. Instead, let's skip straight to it with amend commit. You make the change. The IDE's commit tool window says you have changes. This is where the IDE can help versus the command line. Maybe you did a lot of changes before remembering the missing piece. You can deselect files or go into files and deselect change regions. Now you're ready, you click amend, and suddenly you're back to where you were when you last committed. Except our new change is considered part of the commit. In our Git log, there isn't a new entry, just the same previous commit. When you view the diff for the markdown change, you see the date change is now included. For those that don't trust the convenience, you can look at the Git console to see the command which you would have typed from the command line. One last point, what would this look like without a mouse? Follow along with the pop-ups at the bottom. We make a change, open the commit tool, Control-Alt-M on Mac to check the amend box, then Control-Enter to commit. Forgetting something in a commit, that's something I always remember to do. You can read more about this in the IDE help pages, which also cover the intriguing topic of amending a further back commit. Some changes are ready. Other changes, You've done a lot of work, but not all the changes should go in one commit. Let's use partial commit. In the commit window, look at your changes. Skip the second file by clicking the checkbox. In the first file, open the diff and deselect some of its changes. Now when you commit, just those parts are included. The unselected parts remain as changes. That's a quick glance. Let's take a closer look. You sit down to do some work, it's going well. You're in the zone. You have an idea for some other work, something for next week. Exciting stuff, you can't help yourself. You write it down. You get a phone call. You forgot a change in something that you did last week. Need to make a small fix. Back to what you were doing at first. You wrap it up. Time to ship it with a good commit message. But there are actually 3 units of work slotted for this commit. Today's work, next week's work, and last week's work. Each should get separate commits. Of course, you could just do a single commit with part of the commit message for each unit. Fast for you for now, but not fast for others trying to decipher the commit history later. You could roll back the second 2 changes, then manually reapply them, but that's, how shall we say, inefficient. You could use the underappreciated change list or stash facilities. Maybe there's a quick and easy solution. Quick and easy? Time for partial commits. What's a partial commit? Here's a website that explains it. That paragraph describes exactly what we want to do. The how? Maybe a little cumbersome. Fortunately, our IDEs have been putting a pretty face on this operation for a while. Let's return to the commit tool window and walk through committing just the work we want. First, leaving out an entire file, just click the checkbox on any files. Sometimes you have a big directory hierarchy of files that might have been copied in. Leaving them out is easy, just deselect the parent. You could even go in and reselect just a couple. Next, leaving out part of a file. Bring up the diff tool, find the change you want to omit, and click the checkbox. If you change your mind, reselect it. This is just like the normal diff tool. You could scroll through changes in a file, between files, use the keyboard only. All of those productivity tips apply. When you finish, you'll see the checkbox has a dash. That means it is between checked and unchecked. Think of it as some. You do your commit as normal. It leaves the unselected changes out of the commit, meaning they are still there. You could continue your process to select the changes for next week's commit with a good commit message. Then the changes for last week's commit, again with a good commit message. There you've processed all the changes. Your commit history is easy to digest later. Want to see what happened behind the scenes? The Git Tools log tab shows the commands issued. This is what you would have had to type. Jumbo commits are bad. Our IDEs, as usual, can help with the janitorial work of keeping your history tidy. I want to see what changed in my editor when I'm, editing. I'm working hard. Adds, edits, deletes. I go away, then come back. What was it that I did? let the IDE's gutter show you. Green shows additions. Blue means changes. The expando triangle, deletions. But wait, there's more. Click to see an inline diff and actions such as rollback. All right there in your editor, no losing your flow. That's a quick glance. Let's take a deeper look. It's easy to forget what you did an hour ago. For example, you're cranking out something big. This tip. You're adding new lines of content. You're changing lines. You're deleting lines. You spent hours in thought. Feels good to get it all written down. You then go away to do some other work. When you come back, you've lost your train of thought. What were you doing? What had you done? VCS could help. You can do it the caveman way from the command line. Or you can use the IDE's nice Git integration. It will show you the changed files, but you then need to go into them and go through a diff, and the listing will show you every change in the project. What you want is something in the editor to use while you're editing at a glance. What's changed? So you can stay in the flow. Seeing what changed and staying in the flow, that's what we're good at. Use the IDE's gutter markers to spot changes with just a quick look. Changed regions have a color block. This region was added, it's in green. This region had an edit, it's in blue. This region had the line contents deleted with a blank line in its place. It's in, whatever is that color. This region had a delete. The gutter marker is now a little expando triangle. Next, perhaps you want to know more about that change. These regions are clickable. This gives you a little, non-obtrusive, easily dismissed inline inlay. The inlay shows a little preview of the diff. Nice. It also has some really useful buttons. You can move between changes or roll back that change, which you will use all the time. You can launch a full diff. You can copy that change region to the clipboard, toggle highlighting the change, and finally, use the change list facility to move this change out of the way. When you're done, hit escape or click elsewhere to dismiss the panel, and you're right back where you were. This tip video has mods. First, from Vazia, a reminder that you can also tackle this need with the IDE's Show History for Selection action. Here it is in action. Make a selection, search for the action, then invoke it, and get a pretty powerful, quite useful narrative about what happened right here, and just dismiss it to return to your work. My colleague Matt Ellis points out, use the gutter to make Git staging more usable, including with change lists. Our help pages are a fantastic resource. Let's see this topic, for example, in the Goland help. The page explains it all and then tells you how to customize those colors. What a friendly and useful feature. Let the IDE help you remember where you were, what you did, and if you want to, act on it. I'm off working, but everyone else is too. How do I stay in sync? When you work on a feature, you create a feature branch. Here you can work away in isolation. You're finished, you commit with a good commit message, then go back to your main branch and wrap up with a local merge, then a push to share with your team. All good. That was suspiciously easy. This time you're on a branch, you again wrap up your work with a commit, switch to main and merge. All good, but while you were away, and that wraps up my feature, a colleague also merged something to main. Now when you push, Git is unhappy, does not spark joy. This example, though, is easy. The changes don't overlap, so you let the IDE do the cleanup. But what if the person edited the same line as you? If you do the same steps, now you have a merge conflict. Really does not spark joy. This leads to the work of resolving the conflict. You could have avoided this if you just knew about their commit before you did your change. If you thought maybe the IDE can help me on that, well, right you are. Every 20 minutes, the IDE checks if there are remote commits to a locally tracked branch. If so, the branch pop-up will show a blue down arrow on the unsynced branch. A mouse over explains. Indeed, if you make a local commit in a local branch, then merge to a tracked branch such as main, but haven't yet pushed the commits, now when you open the branch pop-up, you see a green up arrow on that branch. A mouse over explains that the branch has incoming and outgoing commits. I wonder if this has a setting. Well, of course our IDEs have a knob for that in the Git settings. Here you can adjust the policy. You can learn a lot from our help pages. Let's see this topic in the IntelliJ IDEA help. There you go, an explanation of the green, blue, and up and down arrows on the branch. Merge conflicts do not spark joy. Thankfully, the ever so helpful IDE is right there letting you know there are changes you might want to get. Changes on the main branch. Maybe I ought to look at them before merging. You're working on a feature branch? In the last video, we saw how the IDE can show you when the main branch gets updated. You look and yes, in fact, main does have incoming commits. You go to git log, but nothing. What's up with that? The IDE checks regularly for remote changes, but it doesn't fetch the changes. Okay, let me guess. The IDE help pages explain this. Our IDE help pages explain all this. Your local Git is just as it was before the check, and it certainly hasn't updated your working copy files. I think I'd like to see those changes before I apply them. You know, look before you leap. In Git terms, we want to fetch changes. This gets us the new data from commits, but changes are not applied to your code. How do you do a fetch? If you prefer the keyboard, search by action and type fetch. You can also open the branches pop-up and click the blue down arrow, or go to the Git menu and do a fetch from there. Keyboard, pop-up, menu, you do you. The Git log timeline now tells you that origin main, that kind of violet color, has 2 new commits in the swim lane view. We're in the all branches view. To emphasize our current state, double-click to zoom on our local branch. No evidence in the swim lanes of those 2 commits from origin main. Same for our local main. But remote main, that shows the 2 commits. We finish by going back to the all view. Okay, I like saying the word swim lanes. That tells you about the commits, but what about the changes in the commit? Just click on the commit and get more detail, including a diff. My colleague Merritt has several good videos on using Git from our IDEs, including this one on resolving merge conflicts. Merritt recommends fetch and the look before you leap described here. This lets you see if there are problems before starting your merge instead of being surprised by a disruption. What's the YOLO option? But if you know you're working alone, you can use the IDE's update action, Command T on Mac. It combines fetch and pull. As explained in our help pages, update does several things at once. Getting your local project up to date with remote changes involves some choices. Be careful, roll the dice. Either way, the IDE can help you do the work and show you the consequences. I want to merge, but what's in those commits? In the last 2 videos, we saw notification of remote commits, where we poll every 20 seconds, how to get those commits using fetch, and how it updates the git log swim lanes. These swim lanes are great. They tell us that those commits are in main. We kind of want them in our feature branch. One more thing though, what changes are included in those commits? I'll say it again, look before you leap. In the last video, we saw going to the git log, choosing a commit, and getting to a diff. This is against your local branch, not the uncommitted changes in your working directory. My colleague Marco, who is brilliant at showing this stuff, has a video on this with other good tips. This is all stolen from him. But that's not the branch. That's a commit on the branch. If the branch had multiple commits, you could select all of them. The IDE will figure out all the changes versus your local branch. Marco covered this multiple select mergey thingy in the same video. Marco. That's a lot of work. Let's just compare with the branch. In the pop-up, select a branch and choose Compare with your branch name. The top shows commits in main since your branch last updated with it. The bottom has your commits in your branch, not yet part of main. Here's what I use. That's for commits on your branch. Show diff with working tree compares against the changes in your working directory. Use show diff, then navigate through the changes. Yeah, Marco covered that too. Our help pages also cover this quite well, with a good explanation of comparing with your local branch or with your working tree. Previously, we saw the IDE told you there were commits and you browsed them. Now we saw comparing those changes with your current work, all on the way to getting those changes into your branch. Time to get caught up, but how do I get their changes onto my branch? You make a feature branch based on this commit on main. You do some work, commit, your swim lane tells you where you are. While you are working, you noticed your colleague committed to main. Learned our lesson about merge conflicts the hard way. You don't want to get out of date, so you do a fetch. The swim lane now shows main has a commit after the one your branch is based on. That change looks interesting. We'd like more detail, so we'll compare it with our working tree. Yes, you want that work in your branch. Start by getting those changes applied to your local main. You could merge it into your branch, but then when you finish and merge back to main, that commit will be in two places. Let's tackle this with Git's rebase feature. Let's see the solution visually, then perform the IDE action. Our feature branch was based off this commit. You keep emphasizing the word base. We want to redo the basing, meaning rebase. We want to act as if this branch started from this commit instead of this commit. Redo the basing. We're going to move the connection point. Go to that branch and choose Rebase your branch name onto main. Watch the swim lane. We select Rebase and the line now goes to the newer commit. We just showed look before you leap. You fetch first, then rebase. Want to do both at once? YOLO. This time go to the remote branch and choose pull into. This does a fetch and rebase in one step. Which way is better? Don't say it depends. Well, it depends. If you have a lot of trust, skip the step. In the previous video, we saw what changed on the main branch. Now, finally, we apply those changes and now we're up to date. I need to move some unfinished work aside and fix something on main. Can the IDE put them aside? Maybe on a shelf? You're on a feature branch with some unfinished work as we see in the commit window. A colleague asks, can you fix something on main? You switch to main and crap, the feature branch has uncommitted work. The IDE offers to help, but what are the consequences? Do it. What could go wrong? Forced checkout means losing our work. Don't check out? That's like canceling the branch change. Smart checkout, let's click that. But that triggers a merge conflict and applies your changes to main. That was not what I wanted. Let's start back at the top. Your branch has uncommitted work. You could do a commit and maybe squash later to clean up history. You could throw away all of your work, switch to main, come back and redo it. You're not putting that in the video, right? Not a lot of good options. What if I told you that the IDE has a cleverly named solution that just works? On the feature branch with the uncommitted work, we can move that work aside temporarily using the IDE's shelve facility. Click the Shelve Silently button to move things out of the way. Shelve, that's a good name. The commit window shows that there are no uncommitted changes. Where did that work go? Take a look at the Shelf tab. Under Changes, we see that unfinished work. We can safely switch to the main branch, make the change, and commit. Then go back to the feature branch. Use Unshelve Silently to take the work off the shelf and resume where you left off. Back on the Commit tab, you see everything is back where you started with the uncommitted work. Wait, that was like zero work. If you want more control, you can shelve just parts of the uncommitted work to a specially named shelf. On the Shelf tab, you see a new shelf with the name you gave. It has the changes. You can unshelve it and choose the place, an IDE change list, to unshelve it to. And we're back where we started. Shelve is a super simple way to move work to the side, and if you need more than the basics, Shelve has a lot to offer. I need to move some unfinished work aside and fix something on main. Git solves this with stash. Can I use this in the IDE without much thinking? You're on a feature branch with some unfinished work, as we see in the commit window. A colleague asks, can you fix something on main? You switch to main and crap, the feature branch has uncommitted work. Forced checkout means losing our work. Don't check out, that's like canceling the branch change. Smart checkout, let's click that. Do it, what could go wrong? But that triggers a merge conflict and applies your changes to main. If you commit, it's going in too. That could go wrong. Let's start back at the top. Your branch has uncommitted work. You could do a commit and maybe squash later to clean up the history. Or you could throw away all of your work, switch to main, come back and retype everything. You're not putting that in the video, right? Not a lot of good options. You're going to tell me the IDE has a solution for this. The IDE has a solution for this. On the feature branch with the uncommitted work, you can move that work aside temporarily using Git's stash facility. You can get to it with the Git menu under uncommitted changes. In the stash dialog, provide a name and click Create Stash. Look, no more pending work, neato. Switch to the main branch, make your change, commit, then go back to the feature branch. Let's get the unfinished work back. Paul, use the keyboard, said every commenter ever. Invoke Search Everywhere and search for Unstash Changes. This lists your stashes. It also has some controls for managing your stashes. Select your work in progress and click Pop Stash to delete the stash after applying it. Then click the Pop Stash button. Hey, Git folks, stash, pretty cool name. Unlike shelve, Stashes can be reached outside the IDE, for example, the get command line. But it doesn't work when the target branch is dirty, uncommitted changes, and doesn't let you choose which parts to stash. It's all or nothing. Stash is an uptown get feature which really simplifies bouncing around between branches. Let the IDE help put this within easy reach. You finish your work on a branch, do your last commit, time to merge your feature branch to main. You update main, then do the merge and the dreaded merge conflict. Ouch, that's going to leave a mark. In the actual file on disk, here's what things currently look like. I kind of understand that, but it scares me. You could resolve things manually. Can the IDE help? Our IDEs have been good at that since like forever. You could discard their changes by clicking Accept Yours, or throw out your changes with Accept Theirs. The table helps explain which is which, but probably not what you want. To start resolving, click the Merge button, and the IDE guides you through each change in each file. In the left column, you see a file as it is in the branch you are merging into. In this case, main. All kinds of changes, additions in green, removals in gray, and blue, with conflicting changes in red. I think I can sort that out. On the right, you see that same file as it is on your branch, the feature branch you're merging. In the middle, you see the in progress merged result for this file. Now, process each change, ignore it by clicking the X, or keep it by clicking the arrows. As you do, the middle pane updates and you have one less change to process. If you clicked the wrong button, use undo to put things back in its previous state. That is very reassuring, thanks. The middle pane is a fully featured IDE editor, including autocomplete. If you need to correct something, just start typing. Some of these changes aren't conflicts. Save time by accepting non-conflicting changes in both directions, or just one. We'll use this in a second. You can move between changes sequentially. If there is a second file with unresolved changes, the tool will shift to that. You were right, that saved a lot of time. Let's click All to process non-conflicting changes in both files. Once you have processed all the conflicts, the IDE will detect all changes have been processed. Click Save Changes and finish merging. Resolving merge conflicts? Scary and cumbersome as well. Let our IDE help turn this into a quick, low-stress task.
No. Okay, everyone, please pay attention to our quiz now. Just remember to be quick to give us the correct answer. Are you ready? Question 1. What is the name of the next generation JetBrains IDE that is currently under development? A. Gazette. B. Fleet. C. Gazette. D. Transporter.
We're getting the right answers.
Okay, we have a winner. Okay, so we have some questions here. Paul, I think I have several questions that maybe you can help us to answer.
Sure.
First, cherry picking.
Sure. And in the quiz answer before, Michael guessed grazie, which gives me a chance to say grazie, like the Italians do, which is a product of ours, but is not the next generation IDE. So, Michael, that was a good guess. I just pasted a link in chat to a video on cherry picking. It's the next video in the series, but it's not from me. It's from Marit, my coworker in advocacy. Very good video. Cherry picking is when you have some commits on another branch and you want part of it, but not all of it on your branch. You can do cherry picking to get just some of the changes. I don't know why cherry picking never stays in my brain. So I have to go back and watch that video every 2 weeks because I forget what cherry picking is.
Okay. So maybe you can share the video links.
Yes, I share the video link. We have a very good UI for cherry picking in our IDEs because our developers of the IDE use cherry picking all the time to produce our IDE.
Okay. Okay, here is another interesting question. What is future of Copilot? Well, maybe not really related to our topic today.
Sure.
But I guess it's a question that everyone wants to know.
Sure. And I was at Google Next in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, which unfortunately meant I was in San Francisco. But at the booth, everyone wanted to talk about AI. They wanted to talk about things like Copilot. So this is a very hot topic. GitHub produces a plugin for our IDEs that uses Copilot. So for Copilot itself, that's a question for Microsoft and GitHub. What's the future of that plugin? For things like Copilot, we announced a few weeks or months ago our work on something we're calling the AI Assistant, which is really good integration of AI assistants into the IDE. We got to show that a lot at Google Next. People were very interested at how we move AI assistants out of chat into your regular routines in the IDE, such as refactor rename. So stay tuned. We've got a lot to say on this.
Okay, great. Okay, another question is regarding to GitHub feature, because one of our users who is using IntelliJ IDEA, he wants to know how to create the second multi-line PR review comment, because obviously when he tried to do so, he only can add a single line comment.
Sure. And we put this question in to answer because I don't know the answer. And it's a really good question. So what I will do is I'll go over chat and I'll say paul.everett@jetbrains.com. If this is your question, send me an email. Hopefully the bots don't parse what I typed in chat and start sending me 1,000 emails. But that's a good question. I'll find out. Maybe we already have a ticket. Maybe it's a bug.
Okay, that's great. So is there any workflow tips related to Vercel deployment?
Sure. Vercel is a good question because it's kind of a placeholder for a lot of things that I'm actually really interested in. I work with PyCharm and WebStorm, especially for WebStorm. There are a lot of very specific cloud providers, kind of like what Heroku used to be, platform as a service kind of thing. We don't provide deep integration with them. We rely on them to make a plugin to do the integration. It will be interesting if we start getting a lot more comments asking us for this. Right now, we're putting a lot of work into AWS and Google Next, Google Cloud, and things like that. But the ones that are really specific, I think they're really interesting, like Vercel. I believe there's a second part to this question about multiple Git accounts. Do you want me to cover that? Yeah.
Yes.
This is another question I don't have the answer to, and I should have the answer. It just turns out I just have the same account everywhere, so I haven't experienced this myself. I do hope we have a good answer. Again, send me an email. I put my email in chat, and I'll see if I can find either a bug report or a solution.
Okay. Okay, another question I think is also quite interesting because also, again, related to AI. So someone wants to know how to use ChatGPT inside IntelliJ Ultimate. I mean, IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate.
It is related to the previous one. Those other providers need to provide a plugin for us. When we were at Google Next on the first day of the conference, first 30 minutes of the keynote, Google made an announcement integrating their AI backend with our tools. We didn't know it was coming. So people came over to the booth, asked us how it was going to work, and we were like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. So some of these backends need to provide integration with us. That said, part of our strategy is to provide a layer in the IDE called AI Assistant that decouples you from the backend. Currently, we work with OpenAI as an LLM backend. We also work with, in some cases, local language models that we ship with the IDE for simple cases, like line completion. And that's something we want to do in the future is we know people are going to change their backends. This is a really fast moving market. And whatever is popular today will not be popular tomorrow. And so we want to provide you with the tooling so that you can make the change and not have to go teach all of your developers.
Okay. I think we still have time for one more question.
Sure.
Can you walk through the best practice of opening a pull request from a contributor's POV, and then how do you to review and approve or reject the PR in the IDE?
Sure. This sounds like a good topic for a series of videos like the ones that we just saw. They would be fun videos to do because I could pretend to be two people and I could talk to the person. With our IDEs, we have good GitHub and now GitLab integration for the GitHub integration and pull requests, because pull requests are a GitHub thing, not a Git thing. You can sit in the IDE and do many of your pull request operations. You can start a pull request. You can start a review of someone else's pull request. And the nice thing about this is you're in your IDE. So all the power that you have from the IDE, like autocomplete or navigation, is available when working in the review of the pull request. You can go to a line and click plus and do a comment on that line, just like you would in the browser, but you're staying in one place.
Okay.
I believe there should be a lot of documentation and blog posts and things like this. So go to our website, go to Google and search for IntelliJ pull request or PyCharm pull request.
Sure. Okay. So although there are still some questions that we are not answering all, but I believe you will have these answers in our after follow-up emails. Okay, so everyone, let's have the second quiz. Okay, question 2. Which of the following is not a JetBrains IDE? A, IntelliJ IDEA. B, Webstone. C, PyCharm. D, Code Explorer. to be fast to win the prize. Okay, now we have the winner. Okay, all the winners, please remember to send us an email to JetBrains to get the prize. You will have the license code.
Wouldn't it be funny if tomorrow JetBrains announces a product called Code Explorer? That would be really funny.
Okay. So it's almost the end of our webinar tonight. You may contact us from the media shows on this slide. Is including Twitter, or now it's called X, or YouTube channel as well. Okay, so really appreciate for your time with us tonight. We have more screencasts on JetBrains YouTube channel. So please remember to click the bell icon to subscribe to. See you again at our next webinar. Paul, do you have any words for our audience?
First, thank you, Tom, for having me, for helping organize this. All of you who are watching this now or watch this later, if you have any good ideas, contact Tom and we'll do this again sometime.
It's my honor. Okay, thank you very much, Paul. And thank you, everyone. Goodbye.